Alright, guys, it has been 42 years since the British rock band The Who, and who actually had a concert, but that one ended up in tragedy. So apparently, this has been a sad day for those people who are a fan of The Who. So apparently, there were 11 deaths and 26 people were either injured or not injured. So apparently, so actually, this was the first U.S. tour ever since Keith Moon had died from a drug overdose 1 year ago. So apparently, it was a tragedy because it was sad. It was sad to see like 11 people dying in this concert. So apparently, there were around 21 concerts in America, North America, 14 in Europe, and there's 35 in Europe. So it follows Keith Moon's death back in September of 1978, where he died of a drug overdose at just 32 years old. So Keeney Jones was actually the drummer. He was the former drummer from Small Faces. So when The Who decided to continue as a band, Keeney Jones was administrated to be the replacement drummer for Keith Moon because they needed a drummer. So apparently in 1979, at around 3 p.m., there were the ticket holders, and at around 5 p.m., there was a sizable crowd. So all the doors were actually accepted to be open intravenously, and then there was like the right front of the main entrance. As the concert goers entered the stadium, he was waiting in front of the doors to be forward again. But when there was a short period, one of the remaining doors was open. At just around 7:15 p.m., there was a stampede. And unfortunately, 11 people were unable to escape and died by aspiration. The 26 other people reported from injuries as well. The concert had to be banned because there was a stampeding tragedy that really happened to The Who. So apparently, we lost another really light that shows for them, as Roger Daltrey states that he told the crowd in the Charling show in Buffalo. So apparently, there was a lot of tragedies in the concerts, including Metallica, the Rolling Stones, and many other bands that ended up in tragedy. So apparently, the 11 people who died in the crush were Walter Adams Jr., who was 22 years old, was from Trotwood in Ohio. Peter Bowles, who was 18, was from Wyoming in Ohio. Connie Sue Burns, who was 21 years old, who was from Miamisburg, also in Hope, Ohio. David Heck was 19 years old, was from Kentucky in New Highlands. Tiva Che Rad was from Newton, which was also a city in Ohio. Karen Morrison was 15 years old and was from Finneytown. So does Stephen Preston, who was 19, who was also in Finneytown, which Finneytown was actually a state in Ohio. Then we got Philip Snyder, who was 20 years old and was from Franklin, Ohio. Brian Wagner was 17 years old and was the youngest member to die in this Who concert tragedy, was from Fort Thomas in Kentucky. And James Wormoth was 21 years old, was from Franklin in Ohio as well. So the incident was published in the book Are the Kids Are Alright? And for the generations of his death wish. It was alive in the second episode of WKRPE in Cincinnati, which is an American sitcom called In the Concert. It was also the inspired films from Pink Floyd, The Wall, in 1982, premiered by The Who's Pete Townsend. So apparently, I would just say this has been the first concert tragedy that ever happened to The Who. So apparently, as I was saying, yes, there has been a lot of concert tragedies around the world. There has been like a lot of these things that happen ever since. Then there's like a lot of like stampeding people. There was a lot of fire people. And I give an example, Dimebag Darrell. So during the concert, Dimebag Darrell was murdered in 2004. So as you may know, for Dimebag Darrell, he didn't actually survive, and apparently there was actually the heavy metal band for Pen and Damage Plan, who was also the typewriter of Vinnie Paul. So apparently, I'm gonna give one example. So the Damage Plan were actually performing in Columbus, Ohio, in the Arosa Village in Ohio. So Nathan Gale apparently had a pistol and shot Abbott multiple times. So Abbott was pronounced dead on the scene, and thousands of fans attended his public memorial, such as Eddie Van Halen. It included artists such as Eddie Van Halen, Zakk Wylde, Corey Taylor, Jerry Cantrell, and Dino Corridus. Abbott was buried alongside with his mother, Carolyn. So apparently it was really sad to see like a concert tragedy doing something like that. This was actually like one of the worst concert tragedies that ever happened in the US. It will also happen around the world. It doesn't matter like where you're from, but it does matter like I am not too sure where, but I would just say, in my opinion, it does happen a lot of around the world. It doesn't matter like where you're from. Apparently, there's been like a lot of concert tragedies, and unfortunately, you can't fix it. You can't fix it. It will always remain like this. It was really sad to see The Who actually experiencing the first concert tragedy ever since Kate Moon died from a drug overdose in 1978. It was really sad. So there was actually another concert tragedy that really happened to Dimebag Darrell, aka Darrell Abbott. Unfortunately, Darrell's brother Vinny died in 2018. So apparently, I'm not really going to go through like all of that because I really don't know who's like Dimebag Darrell's brother. I can't like read the information. I don't really know if I can remember who was like Dimebag Darrell, but I can recall the incident. If I'm not mistaken, I can really call the incident where there was like one concert tragedy that really happened to The Who. Ever since then, it just ends up in tragedy. Because you know, it's probably the saddest thing you've ever seen to some people dying. It was really sad. I would just say for The Who's concert back in 1979 in Cincinnati, Ohio, it was really tragic. Because people who are 15 to 23 years old, 11 of them died. It was really sad. It was really sad to see. Unfortunately, that concert had to be banned to overcome another tragedy. If that one happened again, then I would just say that maybe The Who had to fly back to UK to perform the band since they don't want to end up in another tragedy. But unfortunately for that, none of the Who members died. And Kenny Jones and the rest of the bandmates were alive. They're not dead. So that's all for now that I really have to say. This is a sad day ever since there was a tragedy and a tragedy for a concert ever since the Who were performing there. So guys, this is me feeling the tomboy.